Good evening, everyone. I'm Madhav Pathak, Senior Counsellor at ReachIvy. Today, I'm going to give you massive gyan on how to ace the MBA interview. Yeah, thank me once you get into your dream college. Okay, let's get started. Sorry, I have to share my screen. Okay. Okay, before I get started, quick introduction about ReachIvy. We are a premium education and careers advisory. Our students have gone to all the top schools that you can think of, like Stanford, Harvard, INSEAD, ISB, etc. Our founder herself, Vibha Kabzi, is a CMU and HBS alum. We offer numerous services such as counseling, college selection, essay editing, interview preparations, reviewing your resume, reviewing your LinkedIn profile, etc. Moving on. Okay, so this is a slide on which I can hold a separate webinar altogether. As I said earlier, I'm a senior counsellor at ReachIvy. I've done my MS in electrical and computer engineering from Carnegie Mellon. I've done my MBA from ISB. I worked in various technology companies, both in India and Silicon Valley. Companies such as Salesforce.com, Nvidia, eBay, Musk, Quaker, etc., etc. I primarily help students crack interviews, and I'll try and do that today. Give you some gyan, give you some insights on how to do that. But before that, let us understand why is the interview important. This is a bit of a no-brainer slide because this is the first interaction you really have with the school. And, as is expected, a survey was held which said that schools really hold the interview as the single most important criteria for admission. And, a few reasons for that is the number of essays have gone down, the number of word limit on both essays as well as recommendations have gone down, which have really pushed the admissions, the interview for admissions really high up in the priority list. What is the objective? Well, it has a twofold objective. Number one, you have to fit with the program. You have to really demonstrate to the interviewer or interviewers that you are the right candidate, which really gels well with the ethos of the school, with the program, with the kind of class that comes in. And second, you have the presence and communication skills. So, those guys are not sitting there to throw curveballs at you or throw very difficult mental questions. It's really trying to understand these two things. And there you have to come up and demonstrate who you really are. Okay, what is the format of the interview? Well, typically interviews are conducted by the admission staff or faculty or by school alumni. Depending on where you are located, the interviews can be via Skype or face-to-face. The interviews typically last for about an hour, but in all fairness, some interviews are known to last for a really short period of time, and some can go for slightly longer than an hour. But by and large, you should prepare to speak for an hour with your interviewer. Generally, you just have a single round with one or two panel members. There could be three occasionally, but by and large, it's one or two panel members. Okay, now getting to the meat of the presentation. So let me just, before we get into the slides and I tell you the secret behind tracking the interview, I'll throw an acronym at you. I'm an MBA myself, and like all MBAs, we love to throw acronyms. The important acronym over here is RAPS. You should learn to rap in plural, which means so RAPS stand for R, you need to be researched. A, you need to be aware. P, you have to be precise. And S, you have to be structured. So researched about the school, about the program, about the alumni, aware about yourself as a person, what you want to do in life, what you want to get out of the MBA, why are you doing the MBA? And of course, what have you done in your past life? Precise. You don't have to blabber, go around the circle, get to your point, communicate in the most straightforward way possible and structured. I think it's related, but you should know you have a limited amount of time in front of the interviewers and you have to get the message across. Okay, now getting into the slides. So it's really important. You need to structure your thoughts, as I said, and expect general questions. And these are really important. They may sound general, but some of these questions really make or break your interview. So questions such as, tell me about yourself, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, why MBA, why this particular school, and why now? Second, you have to have a structure. So all good questions are like stories when you're speaking. And every good story has a good opening, moves to the body of the story, and there's a closing. Third, you have to research the school. You have to speak to alumni. You have to go to LinkedIn groups, Facebook pages, contact the alums wherever you can. Each of the school has their website where they have their alums and their clubs listed. Reach out to them, ask them questions, ask them for their experiences, ask them for their advice. I can't stress on how important this point is. And and of course, you have to get your life stories ready. They could be personal, professional, a good mix. You should not bore the interviewers by just sharing your professional stories. You also need to have a fair mix of personal stories. You have to demonstrate that you're a three-dimensional figure and not just a 2D cardboard cutout who's just prepared, who's just spent all his time working or studying. And I said aware. You have to be aware of yourself as a person. You should know your strengths and weaknesses. And it's just not enough to state what your strengths are, to state what your experience are, what your weaknesses are. You have to share appropriate examples. You have to set the situation up and then tell them where you demonstrated your strength or weakness, and what was the impact it had. In case of weaknesses, how did you go about understanding your weakness and then improving upon it? Experience. Well, you should know which points really had a massive impact on your life, in your career, in your personal life. And why did you make the choices you made in those cases? What was the decision making process that was going on in the background? You have to know your goals. Why are you doing your MBA? Even if you do not do your MBA, what your goal is? How will the MBA help you achieve your goals? Where do you see yourself in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, in perpetuity? You should be very clear with what your goals are. And you have to speak like an expert. You have to share insights. Uh, you have lived the life that you're speaking about. Your interviewers may or may not be familiar with it. So speak like an expert, educate them. Do not just skim the surface. Your application. Well, it's very important. You should know what you've written on your application. Everything that you've written on your application, of course, it has to be genuine, and you should be able to speak about it. The program. It goes without saying you need to research about what the program is, what the school is. Each program has some unique selling point. You should know what that is, what are the details. If not, be prepared to ask about them. This is very important. Once you've scripted your answers, formed the structure, looked at the generic questions, you have to rehearse. So each of your response should be precise, should be timed. You can't go on blabbering about one answer. You have to know what to fit in, what not to fit in, and speak out your answers out loud. Speak in front of a mirror, in front of a friend, whoever can give you objective and critical suggestions. Uh, this is very important. Your responses should be conversational. Take appropriate pause. Emote your answers. Wherever you need to show the appropriate emotion, show it. and ask your friends to throw random questions at you. Be able to think on the feet. You have to follow etiquette. I think this shows a lot about you as a person, and you don't want simple things like etiquette to trip you down. Arrive on time. If it's a face to face interview, arrive at least 15 minutes early. If you're on Skype, make sure the environment is appropriate. There's no background noise. The background behind you is for solid color, for light color preferably. You're wearing appropriate clothes. Normally, a formal business attire is really recommended. Always keep a coat handy, even though you might be feeling very hot, like I am now, but ignore it for the duration of your interview. You can wear jeans t-shirt. You can wear a jeans only if your top half is not visible, if your bottom half is not visible, like mine is. But when you're face to face, please, no jeans, no t-shirts, no ripped or unclean clothing. Dress as if you are heading for a wedding. That's how you dress for weddings, wherever you are. And of course, this goes without saying, interview or no interview, treat everyone well. Your interview starts the minute you enter the door and continues till the minute you are there. So be cordial, don't be a over smart person, and just be a person who's likable. Body language, have a firm handshake, but don't press too hard that the other person starts squirming. Make good eye contact. Use good and attentive posture. Sit up straight. Look into the eye. Keep your arms open. Don't appear defensive. And make your hands visible once you're seated. You don't want them to imagine what you're doing with your hands. I can't stress on this enough. Hear what the interviewer is asking you. Stay engaged. Sometimes a lot of students, they answer a different or a tangential question altogether. No, ask answer what is asked. And of course, as I said, you have to show confidence and passion, not aggression, and maintain a positive attitude. And this last point, I can't stress how important it is. Ask relevant questions when you have the opportunity. Typically, this happens in the last few minutes, 10 to 15 minutes of the interview. Prepare at least 2 to 3 questions ready. Your questions should be appropriately specific, they should be personal, and most importantly, they should be researched. And try and avoid unnecessarily controversial questions. And yes, this again relates back to your basic manners. Thank your interviewers in person, and if possible, if you have if you have their email address, later on email. It's always good manners to send a brief thank you note after interview, and try and do it as soon as possible. Of course, this is not part of the original presentation. Most importantly, reach out to us. We'll help you prepare well. Okay, just kidding. This is not part, but yes, we can help you. You can reach out to us on this email provided, or you can call us. We are based in Mumbai at Nariman Point. Thank you.